The Courtship of Harry Potter by Diana Williams. Chapter 15. Changing the Rules. Snape paused at the foot of the stairs. Although the urge to retreat to his rooms to lick his wounds and plot new strategies was strong, he had duties to perform first. The Slytherins going home for the week needed to be sent on their way so they wouldn't miss the train. The ones remaining behind needed to be terrified within an inch of their lives so they wouldn't give him trouble over the break. And he wanted to check on Draco before the boy left for home to see if he'd listened to Snape's advice. He entered Slytherin House and was surprised to find that it wasn't in the usual state of departure chaos. The reason appeared to be because his primary quarry was standing in the common room, arms crossed, glaring at the assembled house members. "Right then, off to the train with you lot. Wouldn't want the Gryffindors to get the best seats, would you? Crabbe, Goyle, bring up the rear and make sure none of them come running back for a pocket handkerchief or some other rubbish. Use force, if necessary." There was a general stampede towards the doorway, and Snape quickly stepped out of the way. "The rest of you, listen up. I don't want any trouble out of you this week. Any of you get points taken away, and you'll have to answer to me, so don't get caught. If you don't have enough to keep you busy, I can always find something for you to do, like cleaning the first floor of the common room with your toothbrushes." Draco looked over and saw Snape leaning against the mantel, arms crossed, then turned back to his housemates. "Off with you, then." Snape raised an eyebrow as the Slytherins scattered. "Impressive." Draco smirked at him. "I learned from the best." "I was under the impression that your father was expecting you home for the break." Draco shrugged. "My father is probably burning everything I own right now. I turned down the offer he wanted me to take," he explained. "He sent an owl last night telling me I've been disinherited." Snape looked at Draco closely. The young man didn't appear to be grief-stricken. In fact, there was a bit of a cat-in-the-cream look about him. "Draco, what have you done?" he asked suspiciously. In response, Draco gestured toward the stairs. Snape turned and frowned as he recognized the young man coming down them, even with the unusual hairstyle and earring. "Mr. Weasley, what in bloody hell are you doing here?" Bill Weasley grinned. "Hello, Professor. Good to see you again." To Draco, he said, "Thanks for letting me use your shower. Sand gets in everywhere." Draco smirked. "Wouldn't want that, would we?" Snape crossed his arms and glared at them. "You haven't answered my question." "He offered for me, and I accepted," Draco said blandly, but Snape could see the mischievous gleam in his eyes. "In what?" Bill's grin widened and slung a casual arm around Draco's shoulders. "Ron's been telling me stories about this imp for years. I thought he'd be unnatural as a curse breaker." He turned his grinning face down at Draco. "Give him a chance to use his powers for good, so to speak." Snape gave Draco a stunned look, and Draco shrugged. "Sounded like fun. Besides, Father's always told me to follow the money. Bill works for Gringotts, and I'll be working for them, too." "Working for them? In 50 years, they'll all be working for you," Snape said dryly. Draco smiled smugly. "Less, or I'm not a Malfoy. Besides, I can't wait to see Ron Weasley's face when I turn up with Bill at the next Weasley family gathering." Bill laughed and squeezed Draco's shoulders. "I'm going to go send off this contract to the ministry, then visit with the headmaster for a bit. That should give you plenty of time to terrorize your housemates until I return." He held out his hand to Snape and said, "Good to see you again, Professor. I expect we'll be seeing more of each other in the future. Harry's an honorary Weasley, you know." Snape absently shook Bill's hand, trying to puzzle out that last remark. Draco made a face at the mention of Harry Potter, but there was a resigned look on his face as well. "Go on, Professor," he said. "I'll keep an eye on things around here while you take care of business with Potter." "There is nothing to take care of," Snape said shortly. "Potter turned me down." "Then why did I see him going into your rooms earlier?" Snape didn't have an answer for that. In fact, he didn't know how Harry could have gotten into his rooms without the password unless... Dumbledore. With a growl, he stormed out of Slytherin House and down the corridor to his private rooms. "Potter! he snapped as he entered his rooms. He had barely shut the door behind him when a solid weight slammed into him, pinning him to it. As his startled brain labored to absorb the fact that there was a warm body pressed against him, Harry kissed him voraciously. Harry, he moaned. What? Shut up, Severus, Harry ordered, his fingers rapidly unbuttoning Snape's outer robes. What are you doing here? This is not in the rules. I'm changing the rules, Harry said. The robe slid to the ground, and he started on Snape's vest. You could just consider this contract negotiations. You rejected my offer, Potter. Harry, and I said it was unacceptable, but I didn't reject it. Harry unbuttoned Snape's shirt and began pressing kisses against the bare flesh. What was so unacceptable? Snape asked, trying not to moan, as Harry found a particularly sensitive spot on his neck. His hand slid up and down Harry's back, and he tried desperately not to latch onto the firm arse. For one thing, that no sex clause, forget it. Harry had Snape's shirt unbuttoned and eagerly slid his hands under the material to caress the sleek skin underneath. I expect you to make full use of my body, and I'm going to do the same thing. Harry smirked at him. In fact, I don't plan on letting you out of bed all week. You seem very sure of yourself, Snape said, trying to summon enough resolve to push Harry away, which was nearly impossible as Harry was nuzzling his chest, teasing his nipples with his tongue. Harry unfastened Snape's trousers and pushed a hand into the gap so he could take Snape's dick in hand. I'd say I have ample evidence that you want me. Harry's mouth took Snape's again, and he had a moment to marvel that the boy was a bloody quick study before the intensity of the kiss and the warmth of the hand stroking him banished all thoughts completely. When Snape came back to himself, he realized two things. One, he was lying half naked on his bed, and two, Harry Potter was reclining next to him, a smirk on his face as he looked down into Snape's face. He tried to glare up at the younger wizard, but from the widening smile that appeared on Harry's face, he knew that it wasn't as effective as usual. Are you ready to concede on the sex? Harry asked. And if I say no? Snape asked, chagrined to find that his voice was hoarse. Then I suppose I'll have to prove my point again, Harry said, leaning over to nuzzle Snape's chest. And again. Snape snorted, even as he let his eyes slide shut so he could concentrate on the pleasure running through his body. You have an exaggerated opinion of my stamina, Mr. Potter. I am not a teenager. Maybe I just have faith in my ability to inspire you. Harry lifted his head from its work and blew lightly on the damp nipple. He grinned as Snape moaned in pleasure. Then he sat up on the bed. Now, about the rest of the contract negotiations. Snape groaned and opened his eyes to glare at the other man. You have an abominable sense of timing, Potter. Harry, and let's just say that I'm learning how to exploit my prey's weaknesses. Harry ignored Snape's snort and reached for a scroll on the night table. Item 1. I will leave here at Hogwarts with you, sharing your rooms, not in separate rooms. He looked over at Snape, grinning. It'll make the sex so much easier that way. Item 2. As soon as it is safe for us to travel, we will both leave Hogwarts during the summer. I want to see some of those places my mother talked about, and you're going to see them too, if I have to drag you with me. Bill Weasley is expecting us in Egypt as soon as we can come visit. He paused. Did you know he's taking on Malfoy? Snape felt as if he'd fallen through the looking glass that Muggle writer had described into a world that was topsy-turvy. Draco just told me, he managed to say. Until then, we can spend summers at that cottage of ours. I expect Dumbledore can make it safe for us. Christmas and Easter breaks, too. I was thinking of a place near the Weasley's house, but I'm flexible on that as long as we're on the flu system. Item 3, I accept your offer of training, and I'd like Professor Lupin to help teach me, but I don't need a stipend or for you to buy my clothes and supplies. My parents left me plenty of money. Snape crossed his arms and glared at Harry, trying to ignore the thought that it wasn't nearly as effective when his privates were exposed and he was flat on his back. Anything else? Yes, as a matter of fact. Harry set down the scroll and moved to straddle Snape's thighs, looking down at him soberly. First of all, I'll try not to get myself killed, if you promise to do the same. Sirius says your odds of surviving Voldemort are worse than mine. At least he wants to kill me himself, while every Death Eater out there has a license to kill you. Besides, as my Eratstas, you're supposed to be a good example to me. I've been doing a lot of reading lately. Snape sneered. My art may not take the shock of that revelation. And in some of the old Greek traditions, paired Eratstes and Eromenos were assigned military duty together. The backbone of the Spartan army were hoplites, paired lovers. Then there was the Theban Sacred Band, an entire army of male lovers who were formidable because each fought like a demon to protect his lover. They fought, lived, and died together. I want that. Snape snorted. Given Voldemort's fondness for both of us, you just might get your wish. That's not what I mean, Harry said impatiently. We're going to survive him. You're too smart to let yourself get killed, and I'm too stubborn to die that easily. What I meant is that I want us to stay together until we kill each other, he added with a grin. Snape's jaw dropped. What did you just say? I said that I want us to stay together. Get married, be life partners, whatever it is that wizards do when they decide to be together for life. Harry stared down at Snape, and the look on his face said that he was prepared to prove just how stubborn he could be. Why in bloody hell would you want to be tied to me for the rest of your life? Snape asked, frowning. Oh, I don't know. Maybe because I think I love you? Snape stared at him, aghast. You can't possibly love me. You don't even know me. Don't tell me what I can and can't do, Harry shot back. I know what I'm feeling for you, and I don't want to mess about for 3 years and then walk out of your life forever. And I think you want the same thing. Snape shoved Harry off and sat up, leaving the bed to stalk over to the fireplace. He wanted a drink badly and snarled under his breath at the lack of any alcohol in his rooms. He swung back around and stalked back to the bed, glaring at its sole inhabitant. How dare you presume to know what I want? You are an impertinent, ill-behaved, and inconsiderate imbecile. Why in hell would I want you in my life forever? Harry gave him a crooked grin. Because you think you might love me? He offered. Snape snorted. If you expect me to admit that, then you're a candidate for St. Mungo's. Harry's grin became affectionate and warm. I don't expect you to admit anything. Come back to bed, Severus. Snape sat down on the side of the bed. Very well, he said, mollified by Harry's reasonable attitude. If, after 3 years together, we haven't managed to kill each other, then we shall discuss bonding. No wiggling out of it, Harry warned as he proceeded to wiggle onto Snape's lap. The only thing we'll discuss is the date and where we're going on the honeymoon. Snape wrapped his arms around Harry. As a matter of fact, I already have a destination in mind. Harry grinned. I do like a man who plans ahead. He leaned forward to nuzzle Snape's ear. And the sex? Snape sighed dramatically. I suppose I shall have to give in on that as well. Good. Harry handed Snape the scroll and signed his name with a flourish. It promptly disappeared, and Snape had to admire Harry's ingenuity in linking the contract to a portkey. If Snape had a change of mind, it would be nearly impossible for him to get the contract back now. Not that he had the slightest inclination to do so. Now I believe we have one more bit of business to settle, he said, turning to dump Harry off his lap and onto the bed, then pinning the young man's body to the bed. Harry gave him a mock-offended glare. Business? What business? Snape nipped at Harry's nose as he unbuttoned Harry's shirt. As your Eratstas, it is my duty to introduce you to the pleasures of the flesh. Harry gave him a teasing look. According to the manual, the Eromenos is supposed to be a passive vessel. Should I adopt the customary board expression while you bugger me? I could try to nap during it, if you'd like. Snape took Harry's mouth intently, letting him go to growl, impudent brats. Napping will be the last thought on your mind, I promise you. You'll be too busy screaming with pleasure to be bored. He proceeded to fulfill his threat, and Harry found himself inundated with pleasure. Snape touched and tasted every inch of his body as if mapping it for future reference. Harry never knew that the spot behind his left knee could make him moan with pleasure, or that sucking the place below his right collarbone could almost make him come. Snape's hands and mouth on Harry's member felt worlds better than touching it himself, and he would have been embarrassed at the way he desperately bucked at Snape's mouth if he hadn't been too busy screaming. His rat stays didn't seem to think that was enough torment as he flipped Harry on his belly and proceeded to explore the back of Harry's body as thoroughly as the front. Harry blushed as Snape's tongue teased and tormented his most private place, then found himself humping the bed and screaming as that talented tongue lanced into his body. He barely noticed the fingers preparing him as he fucked himself on them, and he was so relaxed and desperate for more that the pressure of something larger and hotter than fingers only made him groan with pleasure. When he came to, he was lying on a warm, moving pillow, an arm like a steel band wrapped around him. He didn't mind. In fact, he thought he could get quite fond of waking up like this. He grinned at that and pressed a gaze against the firm chest and heard a soft laugh. Awake, are we? Not sure I want to be, Harry said lazily. Unless that means we can have another go. Snape snorted. You'll be the death of me, Harry Potter. No, Harry said, lifting his head so he could meet Snape's eyes. I'll be the life of you, and you of me. A smile touched Snape's lips, and he lifted a hand to brush the hair out of Harry's eyes. I don't recall reading that in the contract. It was there, Harry said, laying his head back down with a contented smile. In the fine print at the bottom.